Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Spiritual sex and candy, yeah.
Hello, 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 sexy souls. How is everyone doing? Welcome to Spiritual Sex and Candy. I am Heather, your shamanic sweetener, and we have JP Adkins, our freedom Jedi. Hey,
Hi, Heather.
JP.
How are ya?
I'm here. How are you?
I feel much better. I feel much better.
Yay.
Um,
I'm
this.
actually fucking fantastic. I got some really incredible news today that I can't wait to share next week.
Yay.
I still can't talk about it, and it's like, ah!
Oh, I know what you got. I know what you got. Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Yes,
Yay!
yes, yeah.
All
So
right, so
we're
what's
on
this?
we're on episode 24. Last week we said it was episode 24. I lied. It was episode 23 because we don't know what the fuck we're doing. And we're going to talk about meaningful moments navigating life's tapestry.
Yeah, and I mean, what better topic to have today, right?
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, if you guys are from another country, today is the U.S. elections. Um,
Yeah.
and everyone around me is a
It's like
freaking
pretty
basket case.
intense. Yeah.
Yeah,
But before we start this,
yeah,
we have to say we are a warning. Here is your warning. We are going to say the word fuck. Obviously, I already have, and we're 2 minutes into the podcast. We are going to talk about subjects that not everyone is talking about because that's what the fuck we do around here. And it says it in the name, spiritual sex and candy. So if you are easily offended, this is your trigger warning. Could talk about SA. We can, there's no, we never know what's going to come up in our conversation. So if this is something that is, you're easily offended or you could be easily triggered, then we love you. Please stop listening as of right now because we're going to talk about our opinions and that's what we do here. And we don't want to hear about all the negative bullshit that you don't agree with. If you don't like it, don't listen.
and it's not even that we don't want to hear opposing opinion because that's not the problem. The problem is that if you're really easily triggered,
Yeah.
we don't want to hurt you. We don't want to
Right.
bring up
But I
something
also
that,
don't want people
yeah,
coming at me, well, you're wrong, this, and that. Like, I'm down to have a conversation if you're open to have a conversation. But
right.
what is not going to happen in that conversation is you're not going to change my opinion by being aggressive and nasty about your opinion.
Ooh, let's get aggressive. Can we get aggressive? No, I'm not
I
getting
mean,
aggressive today.
I can be aggressive in all kinds of ways, trust me. There's a reason why I um don't allow I don't allow myself to get truly angry.
Yeah.
I get irritated, I get frustrated, I'll get a little loud, but I try very, very hard to not get truly angry because that bitch is fucking scary. And what scares me about that is if I were to truly lose control, the possibilities are endless of what could possibly happen.
Right there with you. I'll never forget the night that my ex and I broke up. My mom, my mom was living with us at the time, and she was ready to call the cops on me because she wasn't
Yeah.
sure what I was going to do to say
Yeah.
to protect me. Um,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I,
I
yeah,
had a boyfriend who we got in, I had been telling him, like, leave, dude. I know what's up. He was cheating on me. I knew it. He was not good at it. I'm very good at it. So, like, he was not good at it. And I kept telling him, dude, just go. Like, it's cool. If you don't want to be here, don't be here. We don't have to be doing this. But, and he's like, I'm tired of you yelling at me. And I was like, I haven't even started to yell yet. And one night we got into it and he said, I'm just going with the flow. I asked him what he was doing and he said, I'm going with the flow. And that was just it for me. And I just fucking lost my shit. And He moved out the next day while I was at work. So he like took me to work and then he moved all of his shit out and took my dog and then took me to the oh yeah, I got the dog back. That was my bulldog. Um and yeah, I got the bulldog back a couple weeks later. He took the dog cuz he knew I wouldn't let him take him if I had been home. Um but he took me to a bar and told me that he had moved out because he said that I scared him so bad that he legit
The the ghosts. The ghosts are there.
um sorry about that, you guys. When you live with people who forget what day it is. Yeah, so he took me to a bar because he said I've never been so scared in my life that someone was going to hurt me. And I didn't even get close to him, by the way. So I try super super hard to not, not get to that point.
Yeah, if you've gotten me to that point, you deserve everything you got.
Oh yeah, I will make you feel like complete and utter shit cuz I'm going to read you um and I'm going to read you. And I'm not going to filter the reading. Let's just put it that way.
I probably won't even. I get violent once once you turn that key. I
I
can't.
stopped myself from getting violent because I beat the shit out of my best friend one time. One of my best friends when I was younger. Yeah,
My brother.
she pushed me to the point where I beat the shit out of her, which
My
is why I try to not be that way.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
My brother was the first one that ever got that treatment, and um, it was during my pregnancy scare. And he came upstairs after my dad, my mom, dad, and their friend, because we're all there, and they went to the bar because they needed to like get out of the house and be able to talk about what just happened.
Right.
My mom's 9 months pregnant. Okay, my dad's giving me a lecture on the pull-out method. Um, it was not okay.
It was a meaningful moment in life.
It was definitely a meaningful moment. It is a moment I will never forget for the rest of my days. I will be 100
Yeah.
years old, and I will remember this whole lecture, and my mom standing behind him, like just going like this because she's 9 months pregnant
Right.
with my sister. Okay, which makes me 11 years old, by the way, when we're having this conversation.
You had a
So
pregnancy scare at 11?
I had a pregnancy scare at 11.
Wow.
I had to think about that because I was like, oh my God, how old was I? How much? And we were trying to figure out which kid it was, right? Was if it
Oh,
was
yeah.
Tim or Kim? And we realized it had to be Kim because and I are only like 9 years apart. And
That's
like,
crazy.
right. So this was not the first time I had sex at this point. So, I mean, this is the scare. And
Right.
I'll never, but my dad, a 2 hour lecture, and my dad talking for 2 hours is, especially at that age, I was like,
Right.
no. Now it would be challenging to sit through 2 hours of my
Two
dad.
hours of why you should pull. Never mind.
Uh huh.
Wow. That's
2 hours of the whole conversation. Like we went all through the
Oh
whole
gosh.
thing, but the
That's
pull-up method
horrible.
was big in there, and
That's
he repeated
funny.
himself like 5 or 6 times, and like they didn't let me leave until and so it was 2 hours, and so they left, and my brother came in, and I guess heard from one of my other siblings what happened because he wasn't there at the time, and he came upstairs where my room was. I was in the attic at the time. We were all in the attic at the time, and he said, "I've never seen anyone actually levitate until then." He said, "You looked like a fucking cartoon. I started getting scared when you were already halfway across the room before I turned around. Like I was gonna." And he sat down in the chair. Like I can remember this so clearly and so vividly, and all I was seeing was red. Okay,
Yeah.
and he sat down in the chair where my mom always sits, and right behind it, like there was it was this little itty bitty space, right, and she had a knife set that hung on the wall, right there,
Oh.
and I picked up the knife, and went like this with the big old butcher knife, and went like this, and my sister came up behind me where I didn't even hear her come in the house because no one else was fucking there when it all happened, right? Came up and pulled it out of my hand. She cut me, pulling it out of my hand.
Well, it's better that she cut you than you
Right.
hacking your brother.
Exactly, because I was getting ready to hack my brother.
Right.
So thankfully, my sister came in right at the right moment and saved my brother's life. I saved her life earlier. It was okay. We've done these things. This is the things that we do in my family. But yeah, it was. I get to at that point in my life, I got to a point. And Eddie was the last one to make me go all the way there. And if he would have came home 10 minutes earlier, he probably would have died.
Yeah. I've only gotten to that point a few times in my life because I just really try to not go there.
Yeah.
I'm I'm a control freak.
Really?
I know. I'm a Capricorn and I have OCD and I'm neurospicy and all the things. And so I try really, really hard to not allow myself to truly get angry. I get frustrated, I get irritated, but true anger, I just try not to go there
Yeah. Yeah, and I
because the
think that.
possibilities are endless of what I could do. I remember one time and this is, and people would probably say this about me too. So one time my stepmom came to me and told me that she's like, "Did you know your dad killed a man? Your dad has killed someone before." And I went, "Oh, okay." Now to know my dad, that wouldn't be like, he would never have done it just to do it. Like, so he wasn't,
Right.
so if he killed someone, like they probably deserved it, and so like, no, I wasn't too surprised. And so later, of course, I asked him because I was like, I feel like that would be something I would know. Now, my dad loved to fuck with people. Let me just caveat this story with that. And so later I was like, Dad, what the fuck is this about? Like, really? Come on, And he was like, huh, 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 huh. That was my dad's mischievous laugh. I do it very well. He goes, huh, huh, huh. And I was like, oh gosh. And he goes, actually, she asked me if I had ever killed someone, and I just said, that's something I prefer to not talk about. But I think she expected a way different reaction from me when she said that to me because she was like, "Did you know?" And I went, "Okay, like, and." She's like, "That doesn't surprise you?" And I was like,
No.
"Not in the slightest,
No.
actually." Not in the slightest does that surprise me.
I didn't hear that story yet, but maybe that's the one I need.
Right. Right. Like, I was just like, yeah, okay. All right, let's get on topic. So, we want to touch base on what's going on in our world right now, right? Because this is actually a very monumental time in the US that is happening today.
Hmm.
I'm kind of waiting till after this is over, and then I'm probably going to go turn the news on and follow for a little while. I want to say before we get this started is I'm not a political person. Most of the time I do not vote because I think politics is bullshit, and I think 95% of politicians are full of shit. I'm going to say that there are probably some politicians out there that are really, really good and trying to do good things. And so I'll give 90% are pieces of shit. How about that? But
I
it's super chaotic
struggled.
out there.
Yeah, I struggled this year. I struggled. I'll be honest with you. I struggled with the vote this year, and it wasn't until they brought on Tim that I even said, "Okay, maybe."
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe. And then even today, because I had to drive an hour to get to my polling place.
Right.
and I debated whether or not I was gonna just go out there and stay out there for a little bit, in the RV. I live an hour away from where I am right now,
Right.
at my dad's. For people that don't know that, so I've been helping with my dad. My sister's, it's her busy season, who is normally the one that takes care of my dad more than I do.
Right.
Um, and so it's been convenient, very convenient for everybody for me to be here. It's not that big of a deal for me to be here.
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm here or I'm there. I'm an hour away. You know, um, the biggest problem is that my dogs drive me crazy because it's busy here. It's a
Right.
busy street. Whereas out there, I have a little bit more land. There's a little bit more space. There's a little bit more breath, breath. And no one's there all day.
Right.
So, it's not like anyone's really here all day either. But that's the other here or there. So I thought about that. I thought about not voting even today. And I'm like, I will be very upset with myself. I couldn't look myself in the mirror
If you didn't go
if
vote. Yeah.
I didn't go vote because it's that important, and I think that there's a lot on the line right now.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. I
and
agree. That was something before I even left Vegas and I came here was one of my nearest and dearest friends. The last time I saw her, that was like the first thing she said to me when I got there was, "You have to make sure that when you get to Florida, you register to vote there." Luckily, I'm from a state that I'm not a resident of Florida. I am still a resident of Nevada. And we have mail-in ballots in Nevada. So
yeah,
I was blessed that my ballot was mailed to me, and as soon as I got it, I filled it out and mailed it back. And um, because it affects me as a woman who gets into
mhm,
office this year, and for my daughters and myself and every other woman on this planet, it's so important on that issue. What I do with my body is no one's fucking business, and the fact that there are people out there that want to regulate what I can do with my body, you can fuck right off with that bullshit. And men would have a hard here's the
yeah,
side the other side of that. If we told men that they had to every all men had to get a vasectomy until they were ready to have kids, men would be fucking outraged at that shit. You're not snipping my
mhm,
balls. That's going to take away my manhood. Whatever the fuck they're going to say. You can't tell me what to do with my body. Well, guess what? That's what you're trying to do to women. Telling a
yeah.
woman that they
And the
cannot
thing
get an
is that
abortion is like, why do you care? Why do you care if what I do with my body? What difference does it make to you? And I have an opinion about this, and it's a very strong one because let me tell you, if you are pro life and you think that every baby should be born, then you better have a bunch of adopted fucking babies. Because if you're going to advocate for women to have babies that they are not capable of taking care of, whether it be psychologically, financially, whatever it is, maybe they're just not ready to have a baby. Maybe it's because it was from a sexual assault in some way, whatever their fucking reason is. And it doesn't have to be a reason, just for the record. And you're saying that women should have babies that they shouldn't have, then you better be fucking adopting a bunch of fucking babies. Because there's already so many kids in our system that have been taken away from parents, have been put up for adoption, are in foster care, that need fucking good homes. That how fucking dare you say that people should have babies that they don't want to have?
my family's a little weird. My brother's ex, my brother's baby mama, um, she wasn't she wasn't capable of being a mother,
Right?
and she had their first child, and I almost took her literally like a couple weeks after
Right?
to the to like seriously had conversations seriously, like, and at that point I was kind of stable, um But I worked all the time. Like I worked constantly at that point. I was working 70 hours a week. I can't take care of a kid.
Right.
And that's what it came down to. I couldn't take care of a kid. Um, and then they had a second child who my sister did take.
Yeah.
Um, and she was gonna give up. And it was because my brother and my father was like, we can't have an abortion, we can't do all that, blah 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 blah. But she couldn't take care of the children, and she couldn't, like, mentally she wasn't capable of. She
Right.
wasn't all there. She didn't have the capacity for that.
Right.
And what it ended up doing is that I think right after that is when she left and she abandoned her first child. Okay, and I'm not saying that it's all her fault. I'm not saying that there wasn't issues with their relationship. I'm not saying that my brother is a perfect person by any means. Um, but my brother kept my niece. Um, and she has very rarely come back to see her. And
Right.
most of the time when she did come over, she came over for a booty call with my brother,
Right.
not to actually see my niece. So there are some people that just aren't capable of parenthood, and I don't think that they should be forced to. Not that there is. I love my nephew, right? I truly love my nephew. I'm glad he's here. As a matter of fact, he will be here tomorrow with me. He's got to do my generator,
Right
the
on.
stuff for my generator.
You
And I
got
go,
really quiet all of a sudden.
did I? Is that
Yeah.
better?
A little bit.
Okay. I realized I was talking a little bit quieter because I'm afraid my brother's going to walk by as I have this
Gotcha.
conversation.
Okay, fair enough.
Um, and not that I said anything that isn't like public record in our family, and
Right.
like, that
Yeah.
he or my niece or somebody hasn't said. His baby mama's crazy, and she's
Right.
crazy. So why they were together, why all the other things that we can talk about,
No,
but
but they convinced her to have babies that she didn't want. And then at the end, she's the bad guy because she left.
right, and she
Right?
is right, and she
Essentially,
right,
essentially, like, she's now what a horrible mom
hmm
because now she gave up one kid and abandoned another one,
yep,
all within a family,
yeah,
and she's the bad guy.
uh huh,
That's not fair.
right,
I have a really close friend of mine who had kids. She loves her kids. By the way, this is not a story of, like she didn't want kids. She was married, she had her kids, and then they um and her and her husband got divorced and he got custody of the kids, and she was in a situation where it was tough for her to stay in Vegas, and she was having a hard time with work and stuff like that, and she moved out of state, and then she was the bad guy. And I'm like, if she was a man and he did that to better himself, they would say, well, look, he went and bettered himself.
right.
And can I just say the universe is really interfering with this podcast today? What are the odds that someone came and knocked on my door and my phone rang all in one podcast? Just for
It,
the record.
in 29 of them, it hasn't happened yet. So,
Right. Never happened. Now twice in one podcast. Too funny. Anyway,
but
yeah. I've had friends who have had abortions for many different reasons. Um, and they should have the right to do that. They should have the right to do that. And people say, well, it shouldn't be a form of birth control and this, and that. And at the end of the day, it's their body.
yeah,
And, eventually that will affect you, by the way, just from a medical standpoint of view. If you have too many, it could cause you to be infertile, and it could,
It could
but
cause
then
all
there are
kinds of
women out there
right.
that have 8 kids that they can't take care of because, you know.
And I don't
And the
think that.
same people who are trying to ban abortion, by the way, are the same people that want to cut Medicaid funding
Mhm.
and state aid, just for
Yes.
the record. So we're going to make you have a bunch of kids, and we want to take away all of the things that could help you because we're forcing you to have kids.
Right. And I think that there's so many challenges all the way around that. There's so much morality issues. There's so many um, that just shouldn't be. It
Yeah,
either works or it doesn't work, and the only one that can tell you if that works for your life and your is you.
right. Yeah.
Like really, like I said, I there's been 2 kids that I've almost adopted in my life. One was my niece, and one is now my nephew. Right.
Right.
My sister adopted um, the other one too. Um, my sister was a foster parent also, and she used to get the babies because we have such a large family and she had such a great support system. She could deal with having another newborn, you know.
Right.
And she got um, Zacharias. Uh, he was 4 days old. Okay, so literally at birth,
Wow.
and he was a little crack baby, and he was
Yeah.
tiny, and he was, you know, needed help, and he was adorable, and we had this connection. And every time I walked by him, this at this point we were still doing family dinners each and every week, or each and every month, and so I saw him all the time.
Right.
And so every time I saw him, I would hold him, and I'm actually pretty decent with kids, with babies. It's when they start talking and like moving. That's when then they have to go away until they're like 16. Then we can actually talk, and they have a brain. Once they have a brain, like somewhat of a brain,
Which I was going to say, they don't really have a brain at
right?
16, but
But
you can semi reason with a
right,
16-year-old. Yeah.
you could talk to a 16-year-old, and they can
Until they're about
understand.
18 or 19, and then they know everything. And
Right, and then you just laugh at them because you were that
right.
person.
And then at about 25, they start evening back out, and they're like,
Right.
oh, maybe
Oh,
you
that's
did know what the fuck you were talking about.
there were some things. There's a step, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I almost adopted him, and it was literally as I was moving into my RV, and at that moment, a really awesome position showed up in the city that I love, that I just moved from. I could have done some. I would have. I could have settled down. Like it was the options were
Right.
take this new job, which was amazing. Move because I had to live in the city,
Right.
so move back to the city, do this, and or go on the road. And I chose to go on the road. Was that good for the child? Maybe. My sister is an amazing mom. That's not a question. There's just a lot of kids,
Yeah.
so and he's the baby, so he gets picked on a lot because he's the baby. Um, and now it made him mean, and he's mean now because
Right.
he's a baby
Well, and
boy.
there's side effects. I mean, taking on a crack baby,
Yeah.
an addicted baby, there is side effects to that. It changes their brain chemistry. So it's a whole different experience to raise addicted babies.
Right.
It just is.
Yeah, and my sister's amazing. She has the heart of gold. We joke about all the time, but that she's the bitch, um, because she is. She's the one that's gonna get it done. Like
Right.
she will get it done one way or the other, and she will. And
You just might not like how she gets it
how
done,
she
but
gets it
she'll get
done,
it done.
she'll get it done. Um,
Right.
we were doing family dinners. I talked about doing family dinners every week, and my sister works at the place that I used to run. That the owner, the manager of that place, is now her area coach, and I officially live with her. That's where I
Right.
live. So I mean, we're friends. We've been
That's
friends
funny.
for 100 years. Like
Right.
literally, and my sister worked there for 15 years before I did. So it like literally, we've been around for a while, right?
Right.
We've known this woman forever. She's like a second mother to me. Literally, I live with her. That's
Right.
where I live. And my sister Rachel, um, was mad because my sister Kimberly knew that we had family dinner and was still on the schedule. And why are you on the schedule? And family dinner was at my sister's house. Was at Kimberly's house. Okay.
She's
Why are
like, well,
you
you guys can show up. Make sure you bring dinner with you because
right?
I'm working.
I'm working, right? Her husband was there. It was all good. Um, but that was not allowed. You weren't allowed to skip family dinner at that point.
That would be
And
beautiful.
and,
What a
and it,
beautiful thing. I mean, that's
it
a beautiful thing.
it really was, and it really did well. COVID, if it wasn't for COVID, we would still be doing family dinners, and it would be freaking insane. But my immediate family is 32 people. That's immediate.
See,
That's
my family's the exact opposite of yours, right?
yeah.
I mean, so really, it's my sister and I, and my daughter. And my daughter is not speaking to neither my sister or I at the moment. I
Right.
mean, I have my bonus children, but even them, like for holidays and stuff, they have their families too that
Mm-hmm.
they have to go and do things with, and so um yeah, so we're the opposite of that, where
Yeah.
we're so super small that I mean, even on my it's funny because even on my dad's side, it's him and his sister, and he has a half brother that he hadn't spoken to in years before he passed away.
Right.
And God knows how many years, when my dad passed away, had he talked to his brother. But his brother even only had, all three of them only had two kids apiece. So you figure, and then
Yeah.
what's funny is my sister has no kids. All but one other cousin only has one child. Okay. And then my one cousin has five. I go, well, she just made up for everyone else only having one, because she has like five kids. She has five,
My.
but even that, they're in Ohio. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have one cousin in Tennessee, I have one in Ohio, my aunt's in Ohio, and then on my mom's side, it's even less because my sister and I were the only biological grandchildren,
Wow.
and my daughter is the only great grandchild on my mom's side. And I have one living uncle on my mom's side.
Yeah. I have a ton. I have a ton all the way around. My grandmother had 6 kids, 5 kids, 6 kids.
Yeah. Nope.
My parents have 6 kids, and I have a stepsister. We call her my stepsister. It's my older brother and sister's half sister. Um, we're a blended family, so that's
Yeah.
kind of how that works. And then, so yeah, just there's a ton of us, and it's kind of funny when we go and do something together. Um, my brother comes to town every summer, most of the time for the summer for a few days, and you know how I love that. And we talked about that while he was here last
Yeah,
time.
because everything stops.
Everything
It
stops.
doesn't matter what you're doing when your brother comes to town, your family expects everything to stop, and you are now doing
Family,
family time whether you like it or not.
right? And hell, you are a hellion if that's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the
But you're
guilt,
making moments, right?
right?
Like,
And I did it. I had a really great time. My niece was up here. I'm not
yeah.
complaining really. I'm really not complaining as much as it might
Except for
sound like
you
I
had to
am.
rearrange your whole schedule
My
because
whole
he came into
life
town.
had to be
Yeah.
rearranged, in a day or two when we found out he was actually coming.
Right.
And it was for my niece's graduation, which was already moved my life all the way around. And it was like, okay, I'm not kill you. I'm just, I love you. And we go out to this tourist trap called Frankenmuth. Um, Beautiful. Bronner's is one of the famous things out there. It's the Christmas store. It's the largest Christmas store in the world.
That sounds
Uh,
fun.
it it is. It's a big, huge warehouse of Christmas. I mean, you're
I
like it's a
love
mile long.
Christmas.
Beautiful stuff. As a matter of fact, my happy camper comes from there. The first time I went was the day
That's
I
cute.
bought my first RV. Was the first time I ever went. And my friend said, "You've never been to Bronner's?" And I'm like, "No." And we were right there. He's like, "Okay, let's go get chicken." So we went to
That's funny.
Frankenmuth and went there and but yeah, it was. But keeping sane during all that is still, and staying through everything that's going on and all the emotion
Yeah. Yeah.
and all that really does take the training, take you actually practicing your training. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you have to integrate mindfulness into your daily life in order to be able to navigate through all the chaotic stuff going on in the world. Like people are like, well, either way we're going to war, and it's like,
mhm,
oh my goodness, you guys, like that could change at any time. And what if the war comes to the United States? And that fear mongering, which is funny because I just released a video, like, from a different podcast. I just released a short about this, of like, that's the whole idea, is to keep you in fear, because then
yeah.
when you stay at a lower vibration, you're easily controlled.
Uh-huh.
It's easier for you to be controlled. And so that's what they're doing, you guys. And everyone's feeding into it in this moment of, is it really going to be a fair election? Is it that, is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? Is it, you know the they're trying to, if one side wins, are they really going to take away gay right? Like, there's talk of that they want to make gay marriage, I don't even know
Illegal
all of
again.
the things anymore,
Yeah.
right? It illegal again for gays to be married, and like,
Hmm.
and I have friends who are doing the same thing, right? They're feeding into the propaganda as well of, it's going to set us back 50 years, and watch The Handmaid's Tale. Maybe I'm not allowed to say that, but you know if you've watched that, that's what's going to happen. And all of these things. And the more fear that they can um produce
Hmm.
and encourage, the easier it is for them to control all of us.
Yes.
And so when you stand in your own energy and you say, I'm not going to allow these things to affect me. And my friends think I'm crazy because I am not a political person. And 90% of the time, I won't have a conversation with you about politics. I've actually said to people, I'm not going to discuss this with you, because if I continue to have this discussion, I'm going to lose respect for you. And I would prefer to just keep it on the level that we're at now, because your ignorance is going to make me lose respect for you.
I I have very intelligent friends that I love
Yeah.
very much. Um, that if you're listening to only X, by the way, it happens on both sides. So I'm not. Both sides are very
Yes,
skewed.
yes, yes, yes.
Both sides are very
Absolutely.
skewed. This is why I'm not really talking about who I voted for. Why if you have any brain, you know who I voted for. But that's a whole other question.
Right. You notice I
Uh,
haven't said either.
right, exactly. Um, but and but they have their reasons, and if you hear what they're hearing, I can see why they would think that.
Well, yeah, because it's from their perspective, from their
Right.
perception of what is going on. It's if you watch one news channel and another news channel, you're going to get two different points of view on the same exact topic. It's going to be what they want you to hear. And right?
I,
Like I've
I'll
done it. It's fun for me to
yeah.
flip back and forth to the channels, to different news channels and see the difference in how they report events that are going on.
Well, it's funny because our local Fox affiliate
Uh-huh.
here is not a Fox news station. Like it is it says Fox on it, but it does not go in, and it's very balanced. Like it's the most balanced
That's
station.
beautiful.
Right. It's like almost anti-Fox. Like what you think of as Fox News.
Right.
Right? Their messaging is very they're like, I'm not saying that I'm
Right. I'm not putting that out there.
I'm
Yeah.
not putting that out there.
Which is how the news should be, because the news should not be biased
Right. Which is, and this one is very
as much as they
interesting,
can be.
as much as they can be, right? It's the one my dad watches. My dad watches Fox News, the local Fox News, um, so I watch it. Now it was funny though because I was um, out in Adrian. It's actually we pick up Toledo's stations. It's not Detroit stations.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay,
Okay.
so there it was the Toledo station, and it's a Fox News station, and they put this. It was hilarious because they put this headline on to this graphic, and the headline was like that headline doesn't match that graphic. Like what they were saying was like that's a bunch of bullshit. And I'm like, what station is this? And it said Fox, and I'm like, that's weird. And then the news anchor showed up, and I'm like, oh, that's not Fox. And then
And then
I
you
realized it
realize,
was
right, because
I was
you
in
were picking
Toledo,
up a
right?
different, yeah, a whole
I
different
was
channel. That's
I was
funny.
there, and then I went in later and I turned on ABC and saw the exact same graphic with a whole different headline,
Right.
and that made more sense to what was actually there, like that I know was actually there, and I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, that makes sense. Um, so if you're hearing the bias and you're hearing that kind of slant on again on either side, because I don't think that nope, I can't say that out loud today. Um, because of where, you know what, I'll put it this way: Bernie Sanders the first time he ran, I matched at 90% of what his whole thing, because there were all these things on which Democratic should you choose and blah 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 blah, and
Right.
I matched at 90%. The next time he ran, his site was absolutely ridiculous. Like he go because one of my smart friends goes, "Have you read his website?" Like no, because I just went along with I was gonna go with Bernie because I matched 90% with Bernie
Right.
with what he was saying, and then the next time he came out, he went way left, and like, wait, stop, you can't say that. That's not like he was to the left what Trump is to the right,
Yeah.
and it was like, ooh, no, don't do that.
I was gonna say, just for the record, my views on I'm definitely like libertarian, I guess is what you would call it, because to be honest, if you want to own a gun, I think you should be able to own a gun.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in a house that my dad hunted, we had guns for protection, all of the things. If you want to legally own a gun, by all means legally own a gun. And by the way, you're not stopping anyone from pew-pewing anyone when, like if someone wants to shoot someone, they're going to find a gun to do so, just for the record. And but I also think you should be able to grow your pot plants, protect your pot plants with your gay with your same-sex partner, and you know,
I I've said it
I
before.
think that you should leave people the fuck alone, because what your neighbor is doing is none of your fucking business.
I honestly think that if you had the logical laws are in place, and Michigan has Michigan actually has one of the best gun laws in the country. It's reasonable. It doesn't, you shouldn't have to wait 48 hours before you get a gun.
Yeah.
There should be a background check.
Yeah.
You should, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'm not saying, because if I'm angry and I'm going to go buy a gun because I'm angry, that 48 hours might save how many lives, honestly.
Right.
I mean, because when you go to
Yeah.
pick up a gun, if you're in that moment, you're not thinking. So that gives you time to cool down, and even if you pick up the gun, you might not use it at that point.
Right. Right.
You've cooled off a little bit. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm alive.
Right.
Um, there's the background checks. If you're on um depression medication on a certain dose of that, you just get disqualified. Like, it's not the lower levels, but there's a there's a number, right?
Right.
So that, because yes, if you're really
Because
depressed,
your mental state makes a difference.
right,
Your
if it's
mental state makes a difference. Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
so like, if we adopted that as a nationwide law, and we can get AK-47s. I don't believe that we should have assault rifles, but you know what?
But here's the thing with that, because I know people who have assault rifles, and so from the other side of that is that they don't have assault rifles because of their neighbor, but really they have them because of our government.
Right,
Because
but
we have, because it has been talked about of martial law and things just because they want control and that's not okay, right? And so I do think that yeah, I do, because and also if war comes to our soil, you should be able to protect yourself. And and so I
if war
mean,
comes to our soil, okay. So number one, we're talking civil war in martial law at that point. When that happens,
but they
there are
were
people.
not. No, no, this was like recently.
Oh no, we're the the psychics all say that what sets off World War III is Texas succeeding and causing the U.S. Civil War. That's what actually sets off World War III.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I we'll talk on Thursday. Um, when they
I
start
mean,
actually, so the psychics have said that Texas succeeds, which causes which causes the American Civil War that's been right there, simmering below the surface for a few years now,
yeah.
and then what? After that, it causes World War III because people have to pick sides. And the interesting part of that is, I was around some people that actually have military ties and know where things move to, and was watching the um, artillery move, and was like, "Ooh, this is a really interesting mix shake up of where things are."
Right.
Right, because they have to do inventory for the incoming
Yeah.
president. They have to do all kinds of things too. Think about this: if you got a new manager at your fucking Pizza Hut, they're gonna come in and do inventory. They're
Right.
gonna want to have you have to have all those numbers, right?
Right.
So
Oh
let's
yeah.
face, so they were, but it was a little bit more than that. They were talking to me about, and the
Yeah.
funny thing is I saw a missile to air launcher on my way back from that was driving with me on the way back from New Orleans, and I'm like, I've never seen one of those in real life. And it went more north than I did,
Yeah.
because they're moving some things around.
Right.
Um, so how do how do you personally? Let's talk a little bit on how we personally like keep this at a level where we're not freaking out.
I take everything with a grain of salt. I take what people tell me with a grain of salt. If it's something that really I think I might need to put some energy into, because it goes back to you get what you give. And so I don't feed into it. I try not to have conversations about it at all, to be
Mm.
honest. If there is something going on, then I research it, and I research several sites, and I look at both sides and what's going on. Um so that it eases that fight or flight, that fear mongering, type of thing.
Mm.
But to be honest, the majority of the time, I don't watch the news, by the
Right.
way. I don't watch the news.
Best thing I did for my
I
mental
will
health.
tonight, just because it's election day, and
Hmm.
to follow along what's going on. But on a regular basis, I don't watch the news. I don't read newspapers, and I do that on purpose because I when Desert Storm and stuff was going on, my daughter was little. Her dad was in he was deployed a lot. He was a career military. He was deployed a lot. And I remember I would sit and watch for hours and hours and hours and hours because he was right there. And there were times where I would be on the phone with him, and the air raid sirens would go off, and he'd go, "I got to go, babe," and hang up the phone, and stuff. And so finally my dad said one day, you're allowed to check it in the morning, and you're allowed to check in the evening, but you cannot sit. I will not allow you to sit and watch for hours and hours and hours,
Hmm.
And so from then on, I just, like, I just don't. I don't interact with it. I don't engage in it. And when people start, I go, okay, we're going to stop this conversation. Like I said earlier, I have stopped people and said, please shut your mouth, because I am losing respect for you by the second right
Hmm.
now. So if you could just stop, because we're not going to agree upon this, and I'm not going to go back and forth,
Right.
you know. And then I connect with myself, and what are my views? What do I really feel about it? How do I really feel about it?
Mm.
And I don't let anyone change that view.
No, and what I've gotten a lot of recently is understanding, like why you could, because there was a time when I couldn't understand why you
Yeah.
would think that. Um, I got some understanding. I still don't agree,
Yeah.
right? But I can understand where they come from. Um, a little bit better for the most part. There's just for me, there's just too much there for me to ever like. I have a place that I want to hold people to that I can't right now,
Yeah.
and it's sad, and you know what I mean. So, yeah, it's but I definitely I don't have conversations with people that are easily upsettable. I don't have I won't have a conversation with my brother about it.
Right.
Because we're never. He's not coming from a place of. I will talk to somebody that's got to come from a logical place. And
Right.
I have a few people that actually do, and so I can.
Yeah.
So that's why I can actually understand where they're coming from. For and I can
Right.
say I don't agree. Okay, cool. That's two different opinions. That's
Right.
um, there's just a lot. There's a lot that I do there. Um, I don't watch news. Haven't watched news in yeah, that long.
Yeah.
Actually, get mad at my mom when she's around and I have to be around her too long, and she's watching the news. I'm like, we gotta turn this, and she's like, it's my house. I don't care. Turn on the game shows, and we watch Game Show Network for
Right.
hours instead. Like I can't.
Yeah.
I just can't. Like I appreciate you. I understand, but we'll see that clip 50 million times.
Yeah.
And if I have to watch the news, I have to. If I have to watch a news show, I will watch like I work really hard to hit one. Like I'll go and sit down and watch like the noon show, and you know what I mean. So it's not all
Right.
the local noon. Because normally those are
Right.
really
Where
all
they're doing puff
place.
pieces and right, they touch base on one
Yo,
thing and then they're like, let's go talk to the elementary school
right,
teacher who, is high-fiving all their kids. Yeah.
right,
Oh, this card is
yeah.
perfect.
The one that taught the the one that has the thing. My favorite is, and you probably might have saw the story. He had three choices of how you get welcomed, like the fist bump or a hug or an elbow, and the kid tapped it, whichever one they wanted, and then that's
Oh,
what they
that's
got.
cool.
It was like, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
do I want a fist bump? Cool. It's a fist bump day, or I need a hug today, or I'm like, I want that. Can I just wear one and like point? I need a hug today. Hug
I need
me.
a shirt that
Hug
says I need a
me.
hug today, right? I don't
Hey,
like people touching me that
give you a
much
hint
though,
though.
so there's that part.
Right. One funny story. Guy, the last funny story, I promise. We'll get to the cards, but I was working at Meyer and I was doing the samples, and there was a girl that said, "Hug me," had a "Hug me" shirt on, and she was a regular customer. She was on the spectrum somewhere, and I went up and I gave her a hug. She goes, "Oh my God, don't touch me! What the hell are you doing? Why are you touch me?" And I'm like, "You had a shirt that said hug me, so I came up and gave you a hug." And she goes, "You're not to hug me. I don't know why you would think you can hug me." And like through this whole thing, and I'm like, "I'm so sorry." And her handler, I don't think it was a parent. I think it was a handler kind of person. Um, Came up and was like, "It's okay, sweetie." And you know him, and she came up to me all the time. It wasn't like, you
Right.
know, it wasn't like she didn't. It was out of the blue. I said hi, and I came up and I gave her a hug. It wasn't like,
Right.
I just randomly ran up to her and hugged her. She was she was there, right? Um, but yeah, don't hug people that have a hug me shirt on. Just just
That's
FYI.
funny. I love this card, and this is
So
perfect.
what you
And
got,
I
girl?
really did pick it out of the middle of the deck. And of course, as always, it comes out exactly what you need it to. And it is reframe. This is happening for me, not to me.
Ooh.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we need to reframe what we're thinking and how we're thinking things, which definitely, when you are navigating through all the chaos, remember that things are not happening to you, they're happening for you in some way. And that you get to change that whenever
Definitely.
you want.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so true right now. I mean, I can say
Yes.
so many things on that. I actually got Eight of Swords. So again, it's this is the trap. This is the trap that you created,
Yeah.
right? This is the prisons that you create. You can get out of that any way you want. There's a big hole in there. You're blindfolded, but you're like, surrounded by swords. Yes, you're tied up, but you are surrounded by swords. You can cut yourself out. It's gonna take you something, but whatever you're dealing with now, you kind of got there, and you're
Yeah.
the only one that can get you out.
I love that. I love that.
Me too. Me too. It reminds me. It's a good reminder.
You should all go buy a shirt. Go
Merch.
look at our other shirts. We have some really fun shirts over there. Go check out our merch at spiritualsexandcandy.com. Go listen to all of our other podcasts if you have not. I think we've done 24 now. Um,
20
I believe
something.
today is
29.
24. Um,
18.
right. And we hope that everyone has a fantastic week. Thanks for coming and hanging out.
Guys, thank you. It's all gonna be okay. I
Yeah.
promise you. No matter what happens in the next week, it's
Yeah.
all gonna work out. We got this. Just breathe. Take it one step at a time. And know that you are loved, really. Truly, by us, even.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I have to do something. They're just looking at me like, um, Something.
Bye.
You're supposed to do something here.
Everyone here at the True Awesome Network asks you to please subscribe, like, comment, and spread awesome.